Hello, my friends. Today I have a set of Meus cheat code axles. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you some of my tips or tricks with these axles, shimming out some excessive play, and how I did it, what I used, stuff like that. Some other modifications that I've made with these axles just to try to bring them to the next level of performance. Now, there we go. So most of you are familiar with these already probably, and how nicely packaged they always come. I have purchased stickers, the black portals. Okay, so there they are there, and they come with the front links, some spacers and shims and stuff, the chassis mount, or sorry, servo on axle and servo behind axle mount. So one thing, we'll start right from here, is this screw here goes right through into the axle housing. So if you're planning on doing behind the axle, which mounts over here, then I would recommend using one of these little tiny 3mm grub screws with some thread lock, just to prevent water and stuff from getting in there. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to let's do a little bit of a review here. I'll show you some of the stuff. So when you get these axles brand new, they're beautiful axles, by the way. I'm super impressed with them. How's that lighting? Not super great. So this little hex here, let's see, can you see that? Has a little bit of extra wobble in it. See that? So all you have to do, pinching it here, is remove the hex pin and replace it with the Traxxas one. It's just a tiny bit fatter, fits in there nicer. Another thing I noticed is these have a little bit of in and out play. Okay, so what I did is inside the portal, I put a 0.1mm shim, 6mm ID in between, just on the back side of the portal cover housing here. I'll show you when I take it apart. And I put a 0.1 shim on the back side between the bearing and the gear on each portal. Okay, and that takes out that little bit. It's actually perfect, doesn't bind up at all. And you literally do the exact same thing with this one. So this, again, this one's actually a little bit looser. That one might be able to get away with just one shim. This one here, though, is a little bit looser. And again, the wheel hex is just, can you guys even see that? I don't know. Let's try it this way. The wheel hex is just like, see that? That kind of stuff drives me nuts. All right. Something else that I did is where the behind the axle mount is right here, there is a hole existing. Oh, that one doesn't go through. Yeah, this guy. Nope. All right. Well, there's an existing hole right here that I ended up drilling out to 4mm to run my servo wire through. I just took the ends off and ran it through there. After that, I went and I threaded these with a 3mm tap. I got a bottoming one and a pointed one there underneath the protectors, and I tapped this to 3mm and this one to 3mm, and I built a little shield to protect the wiring. All right, and then other than that, I went through and thread locked everything checked the grease. Grease was all good. Didn't really, you should always check it anyways, but it was all really nicely done. So that's what it's about. All right. I guess we'll do a time lapse and then I'll show you what's going on. Hi, Piper. Say hello to everybody. Hello. There we go. Piper says hello. Okay, so as you've seen there in the time lapse, I messed up with the shim stack a couple of times. It took me a few tries to get it right. I got it right this time. So what we're going to do is we're going to take off the wheel nut there. We will remove the hex. All right. Get rid of that. We're going to take off the portal cover. Hopefully you guys can see okay. I got the camera kind of on a weird angle here. I was trying something different. So I just remove these screws here. We can go back and we'll thread lock all this stuff after. Any metal going into metal should be thread locked if you don't already know. So we go like this. I'm going to take this guy out. I'm going to slide out this whole gear assembly right here. Okay, so now what we want to do is this gear, these little notches in here are a different depth on each side. So we're going to want to take this gear, flip it over. Okay, we're going to take our 5 mil ID by 0.1 mil thickness, put it in here. Okay, on this other side here, we are going to take our 6 mil ID, 6 mil ID shim, 0.1 thickness, and we're going to put it in here. All right. Then we'll put the bearing back on. Then we shall reassemble all this. Okay. Shove this sucker back in there. Helps if I put it in the right way, doesn't it? Right? Put this back in here like that. We will reinstall our bearing here. There we go. We'll put this back on here. We'll thread our screws back in. Not sure if you guys can see all that, but we're doing it anyways. We'll screw this on. One down. 2. All right. With 2 screws in and snugged up, you can test it. So here, now I have 0 play. Oh, it's a tiny bit stiff. This one's a tiny bit stiff. This one wasn't when I tested it. Nah. I think that'll break in just fine, actually. So doesn't feel stiff on this side at all. It's nice and smooth. So I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to put these 2 screws back in. I'm going to call it good. All right. So now you do that to both sides, and these axles are done. No more side play slop. Completely eliminated. And you literally do the same thing in the front. All right. The other thing that I found is this little hex pin here. When you put it in there, it is super loose. It's like really, really loose. I discovered Traxxas ones fit in there much nicer, like from the TRX4 or whatever. They fit in there much nicer, and they thread right in through the existing hexes. So do yourself a favor and grab a couple of those and get rid of that slop. Okay, not sure if y'all saw that, but I did drill this out right here. And then I chamfered the edge a little bit to get rid of the sharpness with the little file. So this way when I do, or if I choose to do behind the axle servo, I can just take the wires out of, this is not a servo, but you get the idea. I'll take the wires out of the plug end, and then I'll feed the wires through the hole, put the plug end back on. Then I can run it down the link or whatever, and I'll just build a little shield out of carbon fiber or whatever. So that's the idea there. I'm going to stick you guys back on time lapse, and we will do the front just like I said as we did the rear. We'll use 1 5mm ID by 0.1 thickness shim on each side, and we'll also use 1 6mm ID 0.1 thick on each side, and that will get rid of this little bit of side play that we have going on in here. You know what? Yeah, there's a little bit there and there. Also, you flip that gear around on the inside, the portal gear, and that'll take all the slop out, and it'll still be free enough. You may have to break it in, I don't know, but the first set of axles I did worked absolutely perfectly. Let's do some time lapsing. All right, And there you have it, my friends. Just like that, these axles have been shimmed. As you've seen, I did this one twice. And the reason being is that by accident, I put 2 shims in instead of 1 on the 5mm side. So I had to pull it back apart and redo that. But now it's as smooth as silk. It's very nice, no problems. It's a tiny bit tight in the portal. I might actually go back in there once more and double check. This side was really nice. This side's just a tiny bit on the tight side. There is like absolutely, there's just the tiniest amount of play in there, which is what I was looking for. Same with this side, has just a tiniest little bit, maybe less than 0.5 millimeter, I would say, which is like the tolerance that I like. Do you need to go in here and shim this stuff out? Probably not. These are really, really nice axles. I have lots of shims kicking around, and that kind of wobbly sloppiness drives me nuts. So I went in there and I addressed the issue. I did something about it. Something else to note about these axles is in here, there's the tiniest little amount of up and down. Okay, so I found, where is it? I picked up one of these screw kits. I'm not saying to buy this for yourself. This is just what I did. And inside here, there's a whole bunch of little flat washers. And it just so happens that these flat washers are the exact thickness to shim in there, to use as a shim in there, and also in your on your rod ends and your steering linkage. You'll see when you pulled all this stuff together, sorry, steering linkage is on this side, all this stuff has a little bit of slop up and down, and these things are absolutely perfect for sliding in there. Something else inside this kit that I thought was kind of amazing is there's this M3 by 30. You only get 15 of them, but you look, it's only shouldered and then threaded. And these just so happen to fit absolutely perfectly in here. Ta-da! Look at that. There you go. Nice and smooth on the shock. It's got threads where the link will go, but whatever. I mean, if it was just a screw, it'd be threaded all the way. It also fits into the rear axle on the top here absolutely perfectly. Ta-da, just like that. And now the threads right in. The threads do stick out a little bit, so you could always cut them off, I guess, with the zip disc or whatever. I'll probably just put a nylock nut on there because I have some. On here, obviously, you're going to have to put a nylock nut on there for sure. Yeah, what else? I think that's about it, my friends. That's sort of all there is to it. Got any questions? Post them up, send me a message or whatever, comment below, etc., etc. You know the spiel. Anyways, till next time, send you all lots of love. Okay, my friends, as you can see, I ran the wires through the hole like I said, and I built this little carbon fiber protector. I just went in one of the existing holes with my 3M tap, and I tapped them to accept the threads of the bolts or the screws. So one thing I did not mention earlier on in the video, this is a low profile servo, well, semi-low, and I did have to space it up quite a bit. I'm not exactly sure what that measurement is, but you're probably going to have to space your servo up, or at least be aware that you may have to. I did just scoop a bunch of hot glue in here to kind of prevent the wires from popping out of their location. I may go back and remove that. There is another existing hole right down there. And I might drill that one out to accept my servo wires back through. So maybe I'll run them back through this other hole right beside. I haven't really decided. I'm going to wait until it's onto the chassis and then I may do it again. You also may notice that I did not thread lock anything. I'd like to go back after the fact, after my mock-up assembly, and then thread lock everything. That way I know everything has been thread locked to my satisfaction. So the screw here is not quite all the way in. You can see here I used red washers instead of those black ones that I showed you earlier. That's just a preference thing. I just put these on there because I think they look cool. I'll probably take them off because, you know, they'll hang up on stuff in a comp type situation. But for show and shines or whatever, I'm going to spike it out, I guess. A nice spike up top there. So there's a quick little update as to where it's at. I made a carbon fiber plate here just to skid across the bottom so I don't chew up my nice servo. I will trim it down. I'll remove it and trim it down to whatever it needs to be after I get it all mocked up. So yeah, that's where we're at. Oh, and I did I did do balance. I balanced this thing on the scale. And I got it down to 0.2 of a gram side to side. I actually added a screw with a nut on it to get the balance that close. I figured if I'm going to go OCD on shimming stuff and all that, let's get my left to right balance as close as I can before it's even on the chassis. Then I know when it's on there, it's either the links or something on the chassis that's throwing the balance off or out of whack, and I can adjust, you know, where my speed controller is or whatever. Anyways, that feels a little long-winded, but this is where it's at. Hope you guys like it. Send you all lots of love.